Rob Grimes with the IFBTA, and today I'm really pleased to share a microphone with OneSource, one of our newest industry supporter members. And with us is actually somebody that I've known for a while, which I don't get to do all the time, John Young, who's the Director of IT and Security at OneSource. And you were previously a customer. But if I were outsourcing to somebody, to a single source, a OneSource, and I was including a number of things in there, there's probably two things I'd be looking at. One thing would be, obviously, how am I going to pay and how am I going to finance it? But also, if I'm working with the experts, and I do note that you were careful in what you said, because you're not necessarily guaranteeing a decrease, but there could be a decrease in expense, but actually it may be more of buying more with the same budget that you have, because there's always going to be more. So in the work in an advising capacity, are you also helping them, and will you contract with people to say that we will have reductions based on our experience in these areas and actually build that into a contract?
I think they naturally see some of the savings. Again, we start looking at, the biggest one I see is under, again, large scale network or infrastructure projects where we're seeing cost control over year, whether it's 5 years of that stabilization versus I know I need to do a large scale upgrade in 3 years, or kind of flip hardware. That's a good cost control mechanism that I think really helps. But also on the other side, we start to look at, again, optimization of your cost and expenditures around circuits and circuit management. That's where the self-funding really comes into play. We're starting to see a huge delta on what they were paying on individuals, and we start to move into either aggregate services or others. We're really seeing a big difference in what they used to pay and then what they're paying for the second year, and then that carries forth from there. So right. I think it's more of just controlling costs than having to have this huge balloon in your budget that you have to cut something else out, a vital or critical service that you didn't want to cut out that you have to. So, well,
if we could just go back to the original conversation about sort of the unique approach to an industry that you guys know very well. It's more than just the hardware and the software and the services that are out there. A lot of it also has to do with policy and procedure. I mean, I know you mentioned audits, and I know if we're doing some kind of audit, you're obviously auditing these things, but how do you become a partner, in this, where you're really helping to advise the management or the IT management or the lack of IT management, the operations management or the CFO or whoever it is who's contracting you, where they actually look at you as an internal partner in how they actually manage their IT, which is more than just physically racks and wiring and connections?
I think, again, going back to our unique ability to partner with that customer is really looking at where they're going strategically. And then we can position to make sure they have the right service, the right products in line, that we're focused on the right pain points. I think too often, either if you're looking at it from an advisory or consultant, then you're not really listening to the customer's pain points that they're going to have 2 or 3 years from now. So I think from an advisory perspective, we do a lot of long-range strategic planning, and that's where our advisory really comes in. It also makes sure
long-range strategic planning on a customer-by-customer basis.
Customer by customer, based on where they're going in the industry, like where are they growing and what types of services are they needing. We constantly, just because of the growth that we had of a customer 10 years ago, their needs are different than they were 10 years before. So it's a great time for us to partner and say, you've outgrown the original product that we put you on. Let's look at a different type of product or service that's going to be cost effective, but also let's look downrange. Are you looking at growing nationally? Are you looking to growing, from into a different business model? So it helps us really make sure that, again, we have lots of different products. So it helps us really align product to the customer and partner, but also the service as well. So I think that really kind of helps us really align with the business needs of the customers in a way that I think probably not every managed service can. So I think that's where OneSource can be a differentiator.
Is the approach. So, using your experience and the experience of the company, and you talk to a lot of people. You just talked about doing, forward-thinking strategies and planning with somebody to make sure that they're planning ahead in it. So what do you see out there right now are the trends or the things that you believe are going to challenge the industry that you want to share that, with the IFBTA membership here, but secondly, in sharing it, they may get that aha moment. Hey, good point John made. I need to speak more about that. So what are the things coming up that you think they may not be talking about that they should be?
Again, I think we might have spoken about a little bit before. I think the original playbook that we used to have isn't really relevant anymore. So again, I think IT formally, when 10, 15 years, or even 5 years ago, was very segmented, where you had network infrastructure, then you had apps and app dev. Today, I think they're a little bit more blend, which means that when you start to look for how can managed providers help the company grow, I think, again, it used to be, I need to go to this provider just for licensing or procurement. I think what's changing in the industry, and we talked a little bit about this through COVID, is we're starting to see managed service providers do really end to end. And that's where I think OneSource does it extremely well, from whether it's circuit procurement or whether it's hardware procurement, and really helping you through that entire process, even deployment and steady state. I think that's a little bit different, because I remember 10 years ago, that offering wasn't there.
Right.
It was really a service stack. Who's going to project manage it? Who's going to do help desk while you're deploying? How are you going to get through steady state? And that's where OneSource, I think, is starting to see a big change.
It's been a pleasure to have you on board with us today. And again, John Young, the Director of IT and the Security at OneSource, who was previously a customer, and OneSource is the IFBTA's newest industry supporter member. So welcome, and thank you for having this chat with me today.
Thank you. We are very proud of our partnership with IFBTA. Again, very, very excited. And thank you for having me. It was great just to talk about just where the industry's going, how we're supporting it, and how we're positioned for it. So exciting to talk to you today.